Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we're diving deep into one of the biggest questions imaginable. Who are you? But not in some big philosophical way. We're talking neurologically. What is your brain actually doing to create that fundamental feeling of you? I mean, really think about it for a second. When you say, I, what are you even pointing at? It feels like there's this little pilot, right? Sitting right behind your eyes, steering the ship. But what neuroscience is showing us? Well, it's a way more dynamic and, honestly, a much cooler story. So, here's the first big surprise. That feeling of you isn't just one thing. Nope, it's more like this amazing partnership, a constant back and forth between two totally different networks in your brain. And each one has a really specific and super important job. For now, let's just call them the storyteller and the anchor. And this partnership is it's wild when you see how it works. On one side, you've got the storyteller. This is the part that's constantly weaving the tale of your life, right? All your memories, your hopes for the future, your whole identity over time. And then on the other side, you have the anchor. Its job is way more grounded. It's all about pinning that epic story to one specific place, your body, right here, right now.
Okay, so let's zoom in on the storyteller. In the world of neuroscience, this is called the default mode network, or DMN for short. You know this network well. It's what's firing up when you're spacing out, replaying a conversation from last night, or planning what you're going to do this weekend. It is literally your inner narrator, always writing and rewriting the story of me.
And then you have the anchor. This is a super important brain region called the temporo-parietal junction, or TPJ. You can think of it as your brain's own biological GPS. It's amazing, really. It takes everything you're seeing, everything you're feeling, your sense of balance, and it mashes it all together to create that rock-solid feeling that you are located right here, inside this body, looking out. So, we've got these two systems, but the real magic, the thing that creates our stable, everyday sense of reality, is how they talk to each other. It's this constant dialogue that builds the you that you experience every single moment. And it works kind of like a self-stabilizing loop. It's pretty elegant. The anchor, the TPJ, is constantly broadcasting this super clear signal. It's saying, hey, we are here, all the sensory data checks out. Then, the storyteller, the DMN, picks up that signal and uses it as its foundation. It tethers its huge, sprawling life story right to that physical point of view. And boom, that's how you get that unified feeling of being me right here. But what happens when that foundation starts to wobble? What if the anchor suddenly lets go? This is where things get really, really weird and fascinating. We're talking about out-of-body experiences. Yeah, what does happen when the anchor drifts? This question is everything. Because when the system that's supposed to tell you where you are gets confused, your brain has to scramble and make a new best guess. And sometimes that guess is pretty bizarre.
So, an out-of-body experience isn't some mystical event. It's basically a glitch in your sensory computer. The TPJ starts getting conflicting data, maybe from your inner ear, your eyes, your sense of touch, and it just can't make them all fit into a single, coherent I am here signal. To solve this puzzle, the brain comes up with a wild solution. Well, if the data doesn't fit the body, I must not be in the body. I must be over there, looking at it. And get this. This isn't just a theory. Scientists can actually make this happen. They can go in and stimulate that one specific spot, the right TPJ, with a tiny, painless electrical current. And reliably, people report the feeling of floating above themselves. It's incredible proof that our sense of being in our bodies is something our brain is actively building moment by moment. Okay, so that's what happens when we mess with the anchor. But what about the other partner in the stance? What happens if we intentionally turn down the volume on the storyteller? This leads us to these incredibly profound states of consciousness, things like deep meditation and what's called ego dissolution. Think about it. If the storyteller is the source of that constant narrative of me, with all my baggage, my worries, my identity, what happens to your sense of self when that voice just fades out? Well, studies on long-term meditators show something amazing. The activity in their DMN, that's our storyteller network, remember? It just plummets. That constant, self-involved chatter just goes quiet. And as that tight narrative grip of me loosens, the brain shifts gears. It enters this more globally connected state, where the usual boundaries it draws just start to melt away. And what does that feel like? It's profound. People describe the sharp line that usually separates me from the rest of the world getting all blurry, or even vanishing completely. And that's what leads to that powerful feeling of deep connection, of being part of something much bigger, that sense of oneness. So, okay, we've seen how the self is built by these two partners. We've seen what happens when you disrupt the anchor and what happens when you quiet the storyteller. So what's the big takeaway here? What does this all really mean for who we think we are?
Let's just lay it all out side by side. In our normal, everyday state, the anchor and the storyteller are locked in a perfect dance, giving us that solid me here feeling. During an out-of-body experience, the anchor gets scrambled, but the storyteller keeps on telling its story, just from a weird new perspective. And then, with ego dissolution, the storyteller basically goes offline, and that bounded self dissolves into a feeling of unbounded oneness.
So the big reveal, the ultimate point is this. Yourself isn't some static thing sitting in your head. It's not a noun, it's a verb. It's a dynamic, ongoing process, a constant negotiation between the part of your brain telling your story and the part that's pinning that story to the physical world. And that leaves us with a pretty mind-bending final thought, doesn't it? If who you are is really the result of this incredible biological duet, it means your sense of self is way more flexible, way more malleable than you probably ever imagined. So the question is, what story are you going to choose to tell, and where will you choose to anchor it?